And in keeping with our 16 days of activism theme, we look at the effects of substance abuse on children from communities like Eldorado Park, south of Johannesburg. Reporter Gillian Pillay and camera person Vanessa Langa visited a temporary shelter in the drug-ridden area, which is a lifeline for scores of affected minors.
Born into a life of torment, substance abuse has ruined countless lives here. This facility, a refuge for young victims. He's like any other 11-year-old, but bears the scars of a harrowing ordeal. He ran away from home to escape the brutal beatings.
They beat me with a rope for 1 rand. I was screaming, I didn't cry. So that I feel that I will run away. Then my social worker they come from the school, then they open the case.
I asked, can I play with you?
When her father is under the influence, he scratches her skin with sharp objects until she bleeds.
My father took the bottle and so it would scratch me. And so when I wanted to scream, and so he put a lap on my mouth. He sometimes hit me, then he fine with me then. Sometimes then he say for me, your mother, what. And then the next morning and say, my child, here's a 5 rand spending for you. Sorry for doing this to you. I still love you.
This 4-week-old baby is the youngest victim. Her mother, a crystal meth addict, often strangles her when she's high.
You've seen our 4-week-old baby. That baby is suffering withdrawals. That baby goes to clinic since she arrived here. She goes to clinic every week. That baby don't sleep like your normal baby sleeps.
The facility has been inundated with cases.
We can only take in 6 kids at a time. Now we do understand that we are a temporary place of safety. But I think it is time that we revisit that. Because it doesn't warrant the need that we have in the community. And we are also heading for peak season. We are not even there yet.
Why? Children's rights activists hope this year's 16 Days campaign won't just be another talk shop, but will result in tangible changes for those in dire need of services. Gillian Pillay, SABC News, Eldorado Park.
Well, joining us to discuss this issue further is Liesl Valloon, who is in that clip that you saw, the founder of No More Victims. And No More Victims is a temporary shelter for drug addicts, as you heard, and has become a lifeline for affected minors in communities like Eldorado Park, south of Johannesburg. Liesl, thank you very much for your time this evening. Quite shocking what we're hearing in that clip, that the youngest of those affected by a home that has been ravaged by drugs is a 4-week-old baby. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How are you dealing with this scourge? Because that is not the only community that you service.
No,
we're talking many other areas around the south of Johannesburg.
100%. Griselda, you know, we always ask the question, do we put paper before human life? And in my book, the Department of Social Development is putting paper before people. They have known this need since 2013. Since 2013, nothing has changed. Yes, thank you. We have a temporary shelter, a place of safety where we could make children feel safe. You know, but is it warranting the need that we have in our community? No, it doesn't. From time to time, we have to turn children away. Otherwise, we'll be sitting with a situation of overcrowdedness.
That's one of the issues that you raised, and I think I find it quite disturbing, because in speaking to you off air, you spoke about the fact that your facility services your Kliptown, your Soweto, Orange Farm, Eldorado Park, and if anyone who understands the geography of that area would realize how small your facility is to be able to accommodate anything close to what is happening within those areas. We saw communities that were up in arms just recently.
Yes.
Started, of course, by the incident in Westbury that fled to other areas. Has that helped at all? Are we seeing people speak out more about substance abuse in their areas to such an extent that we see the youngest of the youngest being affected by this and having to be removed from their homes?
That's correct, Griselda. Like you know, our youngest child in the house is 4 weeks old. We have a 4-month-old in the house who was abandoned. So I'm asking myself the question, don't these children have the right to life? Don't they have the right to a future? Just last week, I had a meeting with social development. We had a challenge where the house was not in our name. It took us a while to make up the outstanding balance of the property. The house is now in our name, but social development comes back and says they need to authenticate the title deed of the house. Currently,
but we're talking title deeds here, yet there are children, women, boys, girls who are affected by this and need instant help.
That's correct, Griselda. Every day we have to tell women. Just recently, I had a woman come to the safe house, and this is what people don't understand. When you work as an activist in your community, and people see that you are active, you know, as a people, we know, I can go there for assistance, not realizing that we're a place of safety for children only. We just recently had a woman that we transported to hospital that was nearly stabbed to death by a boyfriend. He still has not been apprehended, you know, but we know that now he's running, knowing that there's a case opened against him. But that woman has nowhere to go.
Those are just some of the challenges that you are, and I hope our reporter Gillian Pillay can do a follow-up on this story, because I really find it absolutely astounding. What kind of other difficulties are you facing? Because apart from the fact that you now have to turn away as soon as the facility itself is no longer to accommodate anyone else, what other kind of assistance are you needed in terms of these are children that need to be fed, these are children that need to be washed, these are children. Talk to us a bit about that. Perhaps there's someone out there who is watching, perhaps even social development, who would understand now what challenges you're facing.
I think it's going to take them another millennium to understand. Griselda, if you don't live in a community, you will never know and understand the dynamics of that community. Each community has its own challenges, unique challenges that they face. If you look at, and I'm just using it as an example to broaden the understanding of what we're facing. When you look at Eldorado Park, you have crystal meth. When you go to Soweto, you have Nyaupe. Am I correct? When you go to other areas, you have gangsterism. So each community faces its own unique challenges. We are in peak season, where we have a lot of abandonment, neglected kids.
So you're without a doubt going to be inundated.
That's correct. Yeah. That's correct. They might come and close the safe house tomorrow morning, but I'll let that challenge up to the Department of Social Development. I challenge them to come and close our place of safety. Currently, we have 15 kids in the house. And when you look at each child's file, there's a need.
So why does the Department of Social Development want to close the facility down? And I'm hoping our colleague Gillian Pillay is watching, so that she'll be able to follow up on this story, especially as we're now looking at 16 days of no violence against women and children. This would be one of the instances, if we're talking about a 4-week-old who's had to be removed from their home because of abuses of drugs that is happening. And I would consider that as some kind of violence perpetrated against this particular child.
That is nothing, Griselda. We have an 11-year-old in the house house. I'm not going to mention because I have to protect the child's identity.
Yeah.
We have an 11-year-old in the house whose father is currently apprehended by SABC, where the aunt, the father's sister, paid a visit to her earlier this week and went to school and choked the child. And she only mentioned it when she came from school, that Auntie Liesl, my aunt was there at school and she choked me and she wanted to know how could I open a case against my father. And maybe I know that everybody is in a festive mode and in holiday season, but we are facing real challenges, real crises. You know, this is not a game that we're playing here.
These drug peddlers, I recall, because we covered quite extensively the role of these drug peddlers in these communities that lead to women, children, boys, girls being hooked on these substances. Are you also working perhaps with all the challenges that you're facing, working with the police? You've mentioned your relationship with the Department of Social Development, because it's going to take a multi-pronged approach in order to deal with some of these societal ills that lead to what you are experiencing within your facility.
Griselda, we now into 16 days of activism. And that will be until the 10th of December. But we face it daily.
You think it's all just talk?
We face it daily.
Do you think during 16 days of activism it's just talk and not much or not enough is being done?
What's the use? You spend millions for 16 days for a one-day launch, where that money could be utilized into facilities. Expand these facilities so that we look at long-term interventions. You know, 16 days, yes, it's good that we commemorate and remember. Currently, we are not being funded by social development because of a title deed. We are not being funded because somebody within the Department of Social Development thinks that we stole 300,000. You know, yes, it was difficult to come up with a balance to pay off the property, but does that warrant the Department of Social Development not to fund a facility that is so much needed in a community?
I really hope we can give the Department of Social Development a right to reply and try and understand also from their part what really is leading to all of this. But do you think we are losing this fight as South Africans in the fight against the scourge of abuse of women and children, and also against the issue of drugs, because they're all interlinked somehow, because the abuse of drugs then leads to all the abandonment of the children, and something that's certainly going to escalate, particularly during the festive season.
That is so true, Griselda. Currently, we are sitting with a case of 9 kids waiting to be removed, but there's nowhere to place them. Facilities are already full. And you know, we haven't started festive season yet. Festive season officially starts on the 1st of December. You know, but this is what we're already facing.
What more needs to be done, Liesl?
Griselda, you know that I'm also the secretary for the local drug action committee in Eldorado Park. So we've been fighting this scourge.
You know who some of these drug peddlers are, right?
Yes.
They live next door.
Yes.
They live in the street.
We went to school with some of them.
In the next street. Why don't you assist police? Why don't you hand them in? Some communities probably say it's out of the fear of their own safety. We picked that up quite a lot in our coverage of the recent spate of, uprisings. That might be too much of a strong word, but communities who were fed up with, but you know who these people are. But why don't you turn them in?
Griselda, we have at one stage said, let's tighten the market. You might never get rid of these people. But once you start tightening the market, isn't it they will eventually go out of business when nobody comes buying? But we allow this market to continue flowing. You know, put up a recreational center where young people could utilize their spare time. You know, in the olden days, our parents used to say, the devil has a lot of work for idle hands. And that is what's happening in our communities. The dropout rate of learners from school, I think, stands over 60%. And I speak under correction, but I'm just looking at cases that we are dealing with. Last week we had a 12-year-old who is on crystal meth. And when we got to the house, this child himself did not understand what's happening to him. You know, but we took the mom, we assisted her so that she opens a case. It doesn't mean that when you open a case against a minor that the child will obtain a criminal record, but it is getting the child the necessary assistance that he needs.
But this is definitely a national scourge. You know, I want to just take it out of Eldorado Park. I know you're very active in that particular area, but what do you think we can do as South Africans, what government can do in order to ensure that a lasting solution is found to this challenge? I mean, in Westbury, for example, you had the deployment of a TRT to try and deal with the scourge of drugs there. And then we saw a flare-up in various other areas as well. But clearly there is a permanent solution that is required to ensure that in the next 10 years, we can say this is a problem that South Africa was dealing with, but we've been able to nip it in the bud somewhat.
Griselda, when you look at the kids in our center, don't you see the Madibas of tomorrow? The Winnie Madikizelas of tomorrow? I believe that every child in the South Africa has a bright future ahead of it, of him or her. It is up to, you see, we all miss it. There's one thing that disappeared from all our communities, and that is the village. The village has disappeared.
My child is your child.
Yes.
Your child is my child.
It is time that we as a people, not government, with the assistance of government, but we as a people bring back that village into our communities where your child is my child. If I see your child doing something out of context, that I will reprimand that child. And the parent will not come and say, did you just reprimand my child? But understand that I acted in the best interest of that child.
Liesl Valloon, a pleasure speaking to you this evening, and all the best as you try to do what you can in your community to ensure that you try and get rid of the scourge of drugs. But I'm afraid, I think, during the course of the 16 days, we might hear many more stories relating to this, and we tend to see quite a lot of them during this time. Thank you very much, and I hope our colleague Gillian Pillay can follow up with the Department of Social Development on what the status of your facility is. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.